Thank you, Spirit. That was an awesome song. Thank you, Lee, for reading that poem. And the author is unknown. But I thought that it was so appropriate for what it is that we're talking about this month. And I've gotten to a place where this is just here as background in the event I need to quote accurately. But I have lived the sermon, have been with the sermon the entire week, and I don't really need much of this. And the title is The Power of Knowing Yourself. And oftentimes people think that self-worth is the same thing as self-esteem, but there's a difference. Self-esteem is something that happens to us when we feel as though we've accomplished something, we've done good, we did something well, we mastered some task, then we feel good about ourselves. Self-worth is inherent. You were born with it. By virtue of the fact that you are a creation of God, you have self-worth. But see, what happens is we lose sight of that. We lose sight of that. And we think that we have to do and to be and to have value, to have worth. But self-worth is just, again, by virtue of the fact that you are He. So I want to talk about self-worth from a number of different perspectives. The first one is with regard to relationships. You know what your perceived, self-worth is based on how you show up in the relationships in your life. So what immediately comes to mind to me is I went to see For Colored Girls last night. And I had seen that play years and years and years ago and decided that I'd go and see the movie. But spontaneous, you know, went right from the tennis court to the movie. And there's the character, the woman in brown, because, you know, in the poems, in the actual poems, they don't have names, they wear colors. And her name was something like Shakita or something in the movie. But you knew that that woman had absolutely no self-worth because of what she tolerated in her relationship with her children's father. Not even her husband. She would never marry this guy because she knew that it wouldn't work, but by the same token, she allowed herself to be abused. She allowed her children to be abused because she didn't have a true sense of her value. And on her job, she was remarkable, a remarkable assistant, although her boss didn't recognize it, but everybody else did. Everybody else knew that she really was the glue that held that office together. She was meticulous. She was accurate in her information. And so ultimately, oh, you all have to see the movie, but ultimately, there was a tragedy for which she was placing on the perpetrator. But a wise woman said to her, Felicia Rashad says, you will not be free unless you take responsibility for your part in it. And so in taking responsibility for her part in it, she has to examine her feelings of self. Her feelings around her own value. And she will be free after she acknowledges that. Your self-worth manifests in your relationship with money. Did you know that? How do you treat it? How do you handle it? Do you have the consciousness to get it? And then when you do you have the consciousness to keep it? It's all in alignment. Everything is all connected. So an example of an individual who doesn't truly know their self-worth, and so they don't perceive that they are deserving of all that they get, they win the lottery. And what happens?
You squander.
They blow it. They're impoverished a year later. Because truth be told, they didn't feel as though that they were deserving of that kind of abundance in their lives. So they wasted. You know, they threw it all away. So here's a story I read. There was an individual, and he played the lottery every week. He really couldn't afford to, but he said, you know, they say you can't win if you don't play. And so he would set aside his little money to play the lottery every week of his life. And he did this for, I think it was 7 years. And finally he won. He won, and this was a long time ago. And so the value of the dollar was a lot higher then. And so it was something like $1.25 million. He went right through it. Went right through it in less than a year, and then found himself impoverished. And so he managed again to save enough money every week to play the lottery. And it took about another 5 years, and he won again. And so then he said, oh, do I have to go through the same thing I went through the last time? And so the friend said, not if you know your true value. Because see, what he was doing with the money was ridiculous things, trying to impress other people, wanting validation outside of himself because it wasn't coming from within himself. All these pretty women around him, and of course they're just eating and drinking and spending his money. But he needed that to feel as though he were worth something. And then the Spirit gave him another chance, let him win again. Do you think that he'll do the same thing? No. We don't know. We don't know. If he truly understands that he is a child of God and therefore entitled to the riches of the kingdom, he won't repeat that. But if he's not learned that lesson, he absolutely will have the same experience. Your self-worth determines the conditions in your life. It determines the people that you attract. It determines the events. It determines the circumstances. So if you want to know how you feel about yourself, just take a look at your life. Just take a look at your life. Who's in it? Do they add value? Are they destructive? What are you doing? Are you doing what you love? Are you doing what you feel as though you're truly worthy of? Because see, in life you don't get what you deserve. You don't get what you deserve. Because it's all about this thing called the law of attraction. You get what you attract based on where you're vibrating. So if you're vibrating at very high levels, you're going to attract things of higher consciousness into your life experience. If you're vibrating at lower levels, then you're going to what? Attract things that are commensurate with that level of thinking. So, examine your lives. Here are a couple of questions. Do I believe that the contribution that I'm making to the world is of value? And only you can answer that. Only you can answer that. The next question is, do I believe that just by virtue of who I am, I have worth? I have worth. So I'm only going to give you two questions to really ponder and to really, really contemplate. Go within. Be with those questions. And the answers will be revealed to you. And then the beauty of this teaching is what? You can change it. Yes? You can change it. At any moment in time, you can change it.